being a generalist. But anyway, I will talk you through about the various career options and the positives and the not so good side of each career option after MBBS. And further, we all have to remember that a career in medicine is not easy at all. The number of working hours you put in, I'm into my 40s now and I still get calls middle of the night, and you wouldn't want that, especially when you're already a specialist and into a prime of your practice. But still, before the pandemic, I used to start my day at 8 o'clock in the morning, and some days used to go until about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So it is definitely a very busy, hectic schedule. So it's not easy being a doctor. And very few of, I don't know, when I was asked by Texila University to give this talk on alternative career or various career options, I was thinking about what all did my batchmates. We were supposed to have our 25th reunion, which has been cancelled due to the pandemic, unfortunately. And when I look through, there are only a few doctors, classmates of mine, who have chosen non-clinical work. Most of them are clinicians, but people who are non-clinicians who have chosen alternative careers. I've had a friend who gave up clinical practice and looking after his coffee estate in Sakleshpur, Karnataka, and is very, very happy doing that. Apart from all this, there's growing competition in the medical field. And as I was saying earlier, MBBS is no longer considered as a final qualification. And so we need to know what our career options are and what qualifications we need to gain. So MBBS no longer a final qualification. So it's not just a single hat. You can put on multiple roles after your MBBS degree. So as most of you know, there are clinical roles that each of us could take up, but there are paraclinical roles too, non-clinician clinical roles, or you could go abroad and take up any of these clinical, paramedical or non-clinical roles. So, my agenda of my talk today is I'll go through clinical, bit of paramedical, clinical, non-clinical, and going abroad. And if you were to choose any of these, what the plus and minuses are. So let's look at the clinician's role. So I'll continue with the healing hand. This is the traditional and the most common approach, and I would say 90% of graduates take up this approach, if not more. And being a doctor, you do what a doctor does, look after your patients. And to get into this clinician's role, you could continue to start practice just after an MBBS graduate, though I'm sure many of us would find it very difficult with the limited clinical experience we've had. So one of the ways is to gain clinical experience, learn more, and one of the ways to do that is to gain a postgraduate degree. So for that, you would all know that the NEET PG exam is the way forward these days. So you could get into a training program for MD, MS, a diploma program, or a diplomate in national board. Then there are super specializations, DMMCH, and there are several specializations. So I've had a few patients saying, God, doctor, there's so many specializations here. Can one doctor not look after all parts of the body? But going with the clinician's role, you'll have plenty of guidance. You'll have, I'm sure everyone will have a neighbor or a family friend or a family member who's a doctor, who could, and also your seniors in medical college, you'll get plenty of guidance. But at the same time, the challenges are it is pretty competitive. To get the specialization of your choice, you have to get good marks in NEET exams. And for the you get through the NEET, you join an MD program. There are several institutions which would sign you up asking for you to work in a government setup for 2 to 5 years after completion of degree. And not only all this, you do have to spend a lot of money if you were in a private college doing a postgraduate degree. And once you've had your postgraduate degree, there are lots of opportunities, especially in cities, or and again in semi-rural, semi-urban areas, to have your own private practice, setting up a clinic, hospital, or you could join a corporate hospital, as I have done, and look after patients. Apart from this, there are opportunities in government colleges, government hospitals, medical colleges. So there are certainly opportunities, but uh, there is certainly quite a bit of efforts needed because of the small number of training programs that we have. But at the same time, if you go through this clinician role, have a postgraduate degree, you could work part of full time, though most of us work full time, and there is flexibility in your role. I don't want to work this morning and my OPD is closed. That's okay. My patients will wait till afternoon and see me in the afternoon. But nonetheless, as I was saying, clinician jobs are very demanding. And one of the unfortunate things these days is violence against doctors. Uh, uh, there's a definitely certain loss of confidence in certain group of patients, and also uh, with our law being not very strict, people who assault doctors get away easily. So there are certain challenges here too. So again, if you were to take up government practice after MBBS postgraduate courses, you could uh, after MBBS you could get into government practice easily. There are state medical recruitment boards which apply, which open up for vacancies regularly, and you could start working in a primary health center as a family doctor. And one of the benefits of taking up government practices, you are assured a regular income. Many jobs are fairly permanent. Then you get a lot of reservation in PG seats for in-service doctor. So there is career progression too. And one of the good things is when you are when you get a PG seat as an in-service doctor, your salary it continues while you are in training for your PG course. Apart from this, there are also contract-based practice in government organizations such as ISRO, Central Government Health Schemes, BHEL, TB and there are several other organizations. And you could, there are many doctors who sign up for 10 or 20-year contract, and they're much more relaxed life, no emergencies. You would work from 10 to 5, and I think a pretty decent life with a reasonable salary if you were to consider choosing this option. So for this, you don't need specialist degrees. If you do have specialist degrees, you could still get into government practice. But even with MBBS degree, you could get these roles in government organizations. If you go for the non-clinical roles, not a physician, not a surgeon, pediatrician, orthopedics, then you have these paraclinical roles where you are you take up choices as a microbiologist, pathologist, a radiologist, A radiologist is quite a lucrative thing, though you are doing quite a bit of clinical work there too. You're speaking to patients, discussing with clinicians, you're based in a hospital. But for other specialties like pathologists and microbiologists, there are lots of employment opportunities in laboratories, or you could own a lab yourself, or you could be employed in one of them. And for a degree in pharmacology, there are lots of openings in the pharma industry. Uh, and I've had quite a few number of friends who have taken up this role in the pharma industries, and it's with a decent income too. Otherwise, other degrees, which are practical, are public health and community medicine. Now, with the ongoing pandemic, there is definitely many organizations who are looking at public health experts and community medicine doctors for advice about how to control this pandemic. So, apart from paraclinical degrees, you will certainly get teaching roles in medical colleges. And with so many medical colleges these days, especially in Karnataka, getting an assistant professor or an associate professor role in a medical college is not too difficult. And here you have a much relaxed lifestyle where you'll be teaching about 2 or 3 sessions per week, monitoring students, setting up question papers, and those kinds of teaching roles, which are quite satisfactory too. So let's look at, so here so far I was mainly talking about something related to, there was a clinical, paraclinical. So there was patient care somehow involved, where you may interact with patient at some point, or specimens and x-rays or whatever. But look at other parts where you're not a clinician. One of the most upcoming careers is a career in hospital administration. With private healthcare playing a major role in healthcare in India, and several hospitals coming up mainly in the urban areas, and now even in the semi-urban rural areas, each hospital needs a decent hospital administrator. And working in a hospital, I realize how important it is to have a good administrator, a person who can liaise between the management and the clinicians and regulate the hospital, have standard operating procedures, and ensure quality of care for the patients. So hospital administration is quite a lucrative career alternative, and doctors with their knowledge of medicine will make better administrators than a non-clinician manager in the hospital. For this, you have specific degrees. You could get an MBA in healthcare management or an MBA in marketing after MBBS and take up this career into hospital administration. Or there are several institutions which offer masters in health administration, and it's like you're the boss of the hospital. So I have a classmate of mine who now heads a unit of a corporate hospital. So at a young age, he has managed to reach quite a reasonable position, taking up after his master's in health administration. So and this is not only in India, any other country you go, having a degree in health administration certainly provides you a lot of opportunities. There are other roles too. Something called as journalism and medical writing. This is something which is coming up. You would see that now in every media portal, whether it's newspapers, televisions, internet, there's a lot of medical information, and there are many patients, general public, who seek the help of internet or other media to know about their health, well-being, and illnesses in general. So, with our scientific and medical credentials, doctors will have an edge over other majority of the journalists. So this is a role which is upcoming, and in the West, there are medical journalists who are doctors and have taken up this as a full-time career, and would not be far away in India too. And there are a couple of institutions like the Kochi place in Kochi called the Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, which offer a diploma in medical journalism. Apart from this, there are medical writers, especially academics. So, I do say a bit of clinical research. I have my own, I'm a busy clinician, will not be able to write up my paper. This is where I would take the help of a medical writer in writing up my paper, or I want to set up a small research program and I have to apply for funding for the program. A medical writer will help me write up the protocol, or help me in analyzing data and writing up the data too. Apart from this, there are pharma industries and medical devices. So any medical device or a new product in pharma industries have to apply to the ICMR, which is the Indian Council of Medical Research, or DCGI is the Drug Control Authority in India. So to put your information on your device or the medication, you would need medical writers to do this information, to write out this information for submission to the authorities. So they have a role there. So medical writers, you write up manuscript, you report on clinical trials, news articles, regulatory submission, editorial activities, so quite a few of this. So this is definitely an upcoming thing, and also people could do it as a part-time work in addition to their regular clinical role. Another important career alternative for doctors is being a medical legal advisor. In fact, this is quite a rare breed of doctors. There are very few people who have a medical degree and also a law degree. Most of these medical legal advisors are lawyers with little medical knowledge. But at the same time, once you are a medical, because it's a person who's not being a medical legal advisor, because there are very few in number, you are very sought after, quite demanding, and certainly highly paid. Every hospital would need a medical legal advisor, or rather every doctor may need one. And it's not only private sectors, even, you could be a medical legal advisor, work in the courts. And so certainly there are opportunities even in the government sector. And all you have to do is, after your Mbbs, you could actually take up a correspondence course in LLB and have a degree in law too. And over a period of time, you would gain experience being a medical legal advisor. So this is something you could certainly think about. So apart from this, you could become a pure researcher, get a PhD degree, academia. So this is again an upcoming thing. There are in the West, you'll see quite a few number of researchers in every specialty. And in India, this is again a dynamic and an upcoming career choice. We have the pharmaceutical industry, the Indian Council of Medical Research, several other research institutes such as the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Indian Institute of Science, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, to name a few, where you can become an active researcher. In one of our one of our national endocrinology conferences, we had a keynote speaker who was a basic science scientist talking about her lifetime work on bone disease and osteoporosis. Not a clinician at all. They've done several papers and working with rats and guinea pigs and a basic PhD researcher. And there's now this specialty called as translation medicine, where there is lab research and clinical duties put together. So you have an illness, being an endocrinologist, let me talk about, say, diabetes. In translation medicine, you would try and work up the molecular basis or genetic basis or the pathophysiology of diabetes. And then in this process, you understand the science behind diabetes and come up with treatments which would help in patient care. So from lab research to benefit for the patient. So this is translational medicine. So you could be a clinician and be a basic scientist both together in this specialty. So after your PBS, we've talked about several alternative pathways, being a clinician in a government or a private hospital. We've talked about our clinical specialties, paraclinical specialties. Now, specifically looking at public services. So the UPSC exams and becoming an IAS officer. This is an excellent career choice. If you're up to it, if you want to become a civil servant, bureaucrat, you could crack the UPSC exam. So I'd say that there are better chances for doctors to clear the exams compared to others, because the UPSC medical part of the questionnaire medical questions are very similar to your PG entrance exam questions. So I believe there are better chance for doctors. And also you'll have an opportunity to serve the nation and make changes in society. As this first women to top the Jammu and Kashmir Civil Services exam, Dr. Said Shirish asked her, I said, being a civil servant, I can be a doctor for the whole society. So this is something you could definitely consider, though this definitely needs quite a bit of planning and preparation to crack the UPSC exam. Apart from this is again one thing which not many doctors move to, but I have two of my classmates who are in armed forces who are very happy taking up working in the armed forces. They're being very looked after very well. One of them is an anesthetist, the other is an emergency doctor. So after so you can get into the armed forces through two ways. One, if you're a biology graduate or an MBBS graduate, you could do the combined defense services exam and then you become an officer. Or if you have a postgraduate degree, and if you're less than 45, you can apply for the short service commission and join the Indian Army Medical Corps. And once you're in the short service commission for a couple of years, you could apply for a permanent commission. And if you've got into the armed forces as an MBBS doctor, there are choices of gaining career progression, becoming a specialist, super specialist within the armed forces. So certainly this is a good career choice, though you'll have to be prepared to be posted anywhere. I have friends who one of them is posted in Tripura currently, the other one is in Himachal, though they're both from Karnataka. But nevertheless, I think it would be pride to work for the Indian Armed Forces, and certainly you will have a good quality of life and job assurance being in the armed forces. So apart from all this, doctors, we are all clever people, the cream of the society. We've got the best marks in our schools, colleges, got into uh, medical college training, but nowhere in our training we are taught how to run a business. And as you come out of being a specialist or a doctor, you learn to become an entrepreneur. There are many people who are successfully running a hospital, a laboratory, or opened up pharma company, taken up patents for medical devices, distribution of equipment, and currently the new era of telemedicine. There are several apps which are being designed by doctors, downloaded by patients or other doctors, and you could certainly become an entrepreneur, come up with a startup, and be a businessman and doctor at the same time. And so this would certainly be a great career choice if you're up to it. So apart from this, there are other sectors like the insurance sector. So currently, with about 4% of Indian population having insurance, there are more and more people taking up insurance, and it's estimated that over the next few years we'll have about 30% of Indian patients on with insurance. So insurance companies would need doctors to scrutinize medical reports, come up with plans, and so this is something there's growing opportunities, and I understand that it has a good starting salary. Jobs are not demanding, though there's a risk of stagnation. So you lose touch with your regular medicine, and you're stuck up with one company and health insurance. But if you do have a degree, extra degree in business administration, it could help in career progression. So this is another place where you could easily find work and jobs. So those are several opportunities. So if you could also think about going abroad, overseas training is considered superior and a mark of achievement by many. There's always better income. There's certainly a perception of better quality of life, great training opportunities to both academic and super specialists. You could become a robotic surgeon and things like this. Apart from this, you'll also escape the chaotic government and commercial healthcare systems in India. And with the limited training opportunities and a high cost of training, so going abroad is certainly an option. UK is a great place to train and work. I've been in the UK for 12 years. Benefits are Royal College qualifications are recognized worldwide. I could go to Australia, Middle East, India, several places. Canada was another country where I could go to with a Royal College degree. There's quality and standard training, great access to research if you are interested in research, reasonable pay, and a good work-life balance. For this, you have to be registered with the General Medical Council and should have a license to practice and to work in the UK. To get a registration in General Medical Council, you should have your primary medical qualification, Mbbs, should be recognized by General Medical Council. You should do the PLAB exam to say that you have the required knowledges and skills. and you should also have good scores in the IELTS. So this is either, to get a registration, you can either go to the PLAB route, or if you already have a postgraduate degree, there are some degrees which are recognized, especially in anesthesia, or there are some medical royal colleges sponsoring for training programs for about 2 to 3 years in the UK, or if you have certain specialist degrees, you can directly go and practice in the UK, like intervention radiologists and certain specialist surgeons. But if you look at opportunities in the UK, in UK there are different stages of training: the foundation training, specialty training, service posts. Most of the training opportunities are, most of the job opportunities are in service posts and a few in specialty training. There's a lot of medical training initiative programs, which are 2 to 3 year training programs in the UK. Those are also available. And in the UK, currently there are shortage of psychiatrists, certain medical specialties, general practitioners. So if you want to become an orthopedic surgeon or an ophthalmologist, UK or abroad may not be the best of choices. Again, other choices you could go, the other places you could go was America. Again, American board certification is well recognized, reasonably good pay if you work in America. And again, there is excellent academic and research opportunities. So to get into USA, you have to get your ECFMG certification. You should have a valid visa, and then you should complete your residency program and obtain a state license to work in the US. So to get in the US, you either go through the USMLE route, or you could go to the US for a master's program such as public health biology, and then get into the residency program. So those residency programs are quite competitive, and to get into a residency program, we have to be young, show academic interest, US experience, and good USMLE scores. Immigration can be a challenge, but if you plan well, you could definitely consider going to the US. So you should have to plan quite early, soon after graduation. Again, opportunities in the US are family medicine, some general medicine, general surgery, specialties like orthopedics, radiology, ophthalmology are very competitive. There are certain rural areas in the US where there are probably better opportunities than in urban areas such as New York. Australia, again, that's something, you also has a qualifying exam, or if you've already done your USMLE or registered in the UK, you can go and work in Australia, or if you have a specialist degree, you can also then work in Australia. So there are opportunities, certainly. New Zealand is another place where you could go and work. The New Zealand have their own exams and interviews, so you'll have to have good IELTS scores. But New Zealand is certainly an opportunity. Other places places like the Middle East, the Saudi Arabian countries, or UAE. There are soon after MBBS, you could go as teacher trainer in medical colleges. Nowadays, there are private medical colleges run by US universities, which are looking at a lot of trainers, especially in preclinical subjects such as anatomy, physiology, or pharmacology, and those kind of specialties. And apart from this, there are specialists in demand in the Middle East, but just soon after MBBS, Middle East might not be the best choice unless you are keen to take up a teaching opportunity, and of course, that is quite a lucrative pay. So, but if you were to stay back in India, you have not had any postgraduate qualifications, what I would say is having an MBBS degree is still sufficient to make a good livelihood and have a good quality of life. Still, Even in a place like Bangalore, it's very difficult to get a family doctor. So general practice, opening up a private clinic, there are many doctors who do pretty well, seeing about 50 to 100 patients daily, uh, just with an MBBS degree, uh, having a better practice than the super specialist in the area. And apart from this, there are certain doctors who want a, limited working time, uh, spend more family time. So they become ward doctors in private hospitals, looking after patients for other doctors and consultants. And apart from this, you could do short certification courses like in diabetes, echocardiogram, emergency care. And after MBBS, you could still, without any postgraduate qualification, have a decent career. And, and at the same time, have a handsome income. So, with that, I would like to conclude. Soon after MBBS, we all feel that we are at crossroads. There's so many pathways you could choose. What is very important is choose a path of your interest. It's not because of what your parents was, your sibling wants, what your friend has done, or what your senior has done. Choose a path of your interest. There's no point being a clinician if you don't like being with patients, or the other way around, taking up another specialty just because there's no choice and the only uh, seat available was pharmacology, and so you took up a degree. No, I think you should wait. Even if you lose 6 months or a year in your career, I think choose a path of your interest, have a specific goal, and work towards it. So there's certainly a lot of doors open, lots of opportunities available. Uh, and remember that you can excel in whatever you choose. With that, I finish, and I wish you all the best in your future career prospects. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sudeep. And we have a couple of questions posted in the Q&A section. One of them is like Dr. Kunal has asked, like, what are the ways to do PG from foreign other than USMLE?
Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Kunal, so if you want to do a postgraduate degree in America other than USMLE, for USMLE is like the licensing exam to work in the US. So if you want to do a PG degree in public health, you could do a PG degree in public health, but you can't work as a clinician in the US without a USMLE. So USMLE is an essential if you want to go to the US and work as a clinician in the US. But non-clinical work, absolutely you don't need a USMLE. So you could take up a master's in health administration from a university and be a hospital administrator in the US. You don't need a USMLE for that. So I have another question here. We don't have a name of the attendee here. Is it any good to do fellowship courses in India without MCA recognition? So this is where you should know what you want in your career. You want to work in a corporate hospital in a city, you need to have a course which is recognized by the MCA. Otherwise, you have a good experience, but they will not employ you. Say, so you have a endocrinology training from a fellowship from somewhere where the MCI doesn't recognize it. The corporate hospital will not employ you as a consultant endocrinologist. But on the other hand, you are a private practitioner. You want to gain a bit more knowledge in a certain subspecialty because you have a lot of patients coming who say uh, you have a patient, lots of kids coming in your area to see you, and you want to gain some extra knowledge in managing pediatric populations. You could do a fellowship course to gain the necessary clinical skills, and you're not bothered about uh, whether how qualified that what qualification you will get out of that course. So in such instances, so this is something you would choose. It's always better to choose a fellowship course which is recognized, uh, but if you're fairly certain that you would not work in a corporate hospital and would want to just have your own private setup, you don't have to worry about MCA recognition. Um, So again, the Mr. Aman Gupta, Dr. Aman Gupta has asked, what exam do we give for hospital administration? For hospital administration, there are universities which offer the courses of masters in hospital administration. You could take up for a course in that university, or if you want to do an MBA, you will have to give the CA, the Common Aptitude Test, and then get into the MBA in hospital administration. But there are certain uh, universities where you could do hospital administration without giving any entrance exams.
Thank you, Dr. Sudeep. So I think Dr. Raman has asked,
Thank
are
you.
those universities private?
Yes, there are state-run universities and also state-run universities and private universities. Both are available. State-run universities, like the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, you could uh, has a uh, association with Delhi University, if I'm not wrong, who offer uh, mm, yeah, medical hospital masters in hospital administration. I know MS Ramai universities in Bangalore offers masters in hospital administration. So there are both private and also government universities which offer these courses. So what are the admission criteria? Yes. So again, it will be, if it is most of it, it will be through your CAT would be a thing, but CAT is not necessary for all the universities. This is where you have to check with the university in particular. But for if you want to do it, there are certain MBAs for which you need your CAT for certain. But for masters in hospital administration, CAT is not essential.
Thank you, Doctor. So I hope that answers the question of Dr. Raman. So yes, thank you so much, Doctor. I think we shall wind up the session. So if any other queries they have, we'll get in touch with them. So thank you so much for your time, Doctor.
Certainly, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.